Welcome back to Guitar Made Simple. I'm Brian Metzger. We're now at lesson number 8. So we talked about how there are 3 different families of chords. Those families are the major family, the minor family, and the inversion family. We also know that the numbers that go with each one of those families. The major family is 1, 4, and 5. The minor family is 2 and 6. And the inversion family is 3 and 7. We also spoke about how there's 5 shapes of chords. And those shapes are easy to memorize. It's caged chording, C-A-G-E-D. So you could either play out of the shape of C or play out of the shape of G, and then so on for each one of the others. All right, now the last 2 lessons, we took a look at playing out of the shape of C and playing out of the shape of G. Now we're going to look at playing out of the shape of D. So when we come to the key of D, played out of the shape of D, remember, the first question we want to ask is, what is the 1? What is our point of orientation? What is D? So the key is going to begin with D, it's going to end with D. So D is critical. Get that down. Orientate yourself to everything else around getting 1 down. So D is our first chord. We actually already know how to play D, but I'll go ahead and I'll review that with you. The D string is open, index finger on the 2nd fret of the G string, ring finger on the 3rd fret of the B string, and your middle finger's on the 2nd fret of the high E. And we spoke about how it looks like a triangle or an X-wing fighter, if you like. So there is your D chord. That's your 1. Now, in keeping with our method, the first thing we're going to figure out is the major family, 1, 4, and 5. So we know a shortcut to get to 4, right? The shortcut to get to 4 is directly above, but we're at the top of the neck, so there's no directly above D. So we have to go back down to the bottom, and so we can use our other trick that we know how to calculate it. If we know that 1 is D, then we simply go up the alphabet in order to find our 4. So D, E, F, G. See how G is 4 in the key in the shape of D. G is going to be 4. Well, we know how to play our G chord, but I'll review it for you. Middle finger, 3rd fret of the low E, index finger, 2nd fret of the A string, ring finger, 3rd fret of the B string, and pinky, 3rd fret of the high E. There's your G. So 1, 4. Now we're going to go to 5. And for the 5, if we know that D is 1, D, E, F, G, and we know that once you get to G, there's no letter A, there's no note H, so you have to go back to A. So A is going to be 5. This is going to be a new shaped chord for us. We've looked at an A minor before, but we haven't looked at an A major yet. And before I teach you really the first way that you should learn how to play A, I'm going to show you a shortcut. And that shortcut is to take your index finger and to bar 3 strings with it. So if you put your index finger covering the D string, the G string, and the B string. Now, holding down 3 strings does take a little bit of an effort. Remember, you can make it easier by cheating to the front of the fret. Remember, the front of the fret is toward the sound hole, the back of the fret is toward the headstock. So toward the front, toward the back, toward the front, toward the back. Where is it easier? Toward the front. The closer you are to the front, without actually going up on the fret, the closer you are to the front, the easier it is to hold those down. So if you just played the A string up to the B string, I'm going to say that's sufficient for getting that A chord. If you wanted a more complete A, you could do index finger on the 2nd fret of the D string, middle finger on the 2nd fret of the G string, ring finger on the 2nd fret of the B string, and then play from low A up to the high E. But in most instances, that's the A I'm going to play. It gets the job done. All right, so what's our chord progression that we can do to review our major family? 1, 4, 5, 1. Nice. Everything fully intact. Now let's take a look at the minor progression. Well, you may remember we start with the 6 minor, and how do we find the 6 minor? We start with the D and we go back a step and a half. That brings us to the B minor. So we're playing B minor. Another way to find that is start with D and count up 6. D, E, F sharp, G, A, B. So there's your 6. So index finger on the second fret of the A string, middle finger on the second fret of the G string, and ring finger on the third fret of the B string. Once again, I'm going to say these 4 strings are usually sufficient for playing this chord. And you will omit playing the low E and the high E. So that's your B minor. Now with your B minor, you might remember that your 2 is always directly above your 6. Well, so that would be this, if that's your 6, then your 2 is the second fret of the D string. But you know what? That note there is an E, which is the same as this low E. So I'm going to go all the way to the bottom for this E minor. So E minor is, and again, this chord is a review. Middle finger on the second fret of the A string, ring finger on the second fret of the D string, from your low E to your high E. There's your E minor. So your B minor and your E minor. All right, so now you remember there's a short little chord progression we play, 6, 2, 6, 2, just to anchor that. All right, that's your minor family playing out of the shape of G. I'm sorry, playing out of the shape of D. All right, now we come to our inversion family playing out of the shape of D. And you remember our first inversion, we call it a 3, but really it's a 1/3. It's a 1 with a 3 on the bottom. Well, what's the 3 in the key of D? D, start with D as your 1, count up the alphabet, D, E, F. And F happens to be sharp in the key of D. In another lesson, we'll talk about figuring out when your sharps and flats are. But so F is the 3. So we want to put the 3, we need a chord with a 3 on the bottom. So what is that 3? It's the second fret of your low E string. Now, if you put your middle finger on the second fret of your G string and your ring finger on the third fret of your B string and play only 5 strings from your low E to your B, that's called D add F sharp, or 1 add 3. And that is going to be our, that's going to be our 3 for playing out of the shape of D. All right, now to the next inversion is going to be the 7. Now this is going to be a tricky chord. And I'll point this out, that your 1 add 3 and your B minor are very similar. It's just the index finger on the second fret of the E is your 1 add 3, or your D add F sharp, and your B minor is just your middle finger on the second fret of the A. As I call this a 1 add 3 or a D add F sharp, notice you've got the bulk of the D chord in play there. So that's how you can call that D add F sharp. And sometimes for fun, I'll call this D add B, or B minor. We're using it as our B minor here. All right, so one more inversion chord. And here's one of the reasons that I showed you the shortcut with the A. So remember, you want to find this 5 add 7. You want to go to your 5th, which is, remember, 1, 4, 5. So there's your 5th. Now you want to put the 7 on the bottom. So how do you find the 7? You start with your key, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp. So you're looking to add a C sharp. And again, I just happen to know it's a C sharp. I'll teach you those secrets later, but right now I'm just going to give you the answer. It's C sharp is your 7. But you calculated, you knew it was going to be a C. You just got to pick the right C. All right, so how do you play C sharp? It's the 4th fret of the A string. You play it with your ring. Well, if you play your A with the index, and then put your ring up there, there's your A add C sharp, or 5 add 7, playing out of the shape of G. So, and the progression we're using to rehearse the inversions is the 1, then the 7, then the 7, back to the 1. 1 or 3 to the 7, then for the 7, back to the 3. All right, excellent. The other exercise we're going to do to make sure we got it all down pat is to play the scale with chords. So D, E minor, D at F sharp, G, A, B minor, A at C sharp, D, and play it backwards. D, A at C sharp, B minor, A, G, D at F sharp, E minor, D. Now you might notice I did a little trick there when I was playing my E minor. I kept that ring finger down. That makes it a 7, but it also keeps it consistent because that note is in your D, it's in your G, it's in your B minor, it's in your D at F sharp. So why not keep it in your 2 as well? Okay, well, thank you for joining me for lesson 8, and I look forward to seeing you for the next lesson, lesson 9, where we look at playing out of the shape of A.